I've had the blues, the reds, and the pinks. One thing's for sure. This is Funny Like a Clown podcast. I'm your host, Dennis Wirth. April 12th, 2022. This episode 144. Creeping up, only 6 episodes away from 150. I try to bring something special every 50 episodes. Got a rough idea what I'm going to do. Don't know if I can pull it off yet or not. But, well, I got a couple rough ideas, but not sure if I can pull either one off. But we'll try to bring you something special. Why did I kick off the episode with some color names? I'll tell you why, because we're about to talk about a colorful comic, Mr. Red Buttons. As always, today's episode is brought to you by G Vegas Buffalo Sauce. For the spicy, sweet, savory taste of game time, there's only one G Vegas available. www.gvegas.webs.com. And I've been telling you guys I've been craving some buffalo macaroni and cheese, and I'm going to have some this week, but I'm going to have it in moderation. So usually it's my favorite food, so I just eat it until it's coming out my ears. But that's the key to losing weight, okay? It's my key. I've been losing weight, moderation. So you don't have to give up your favorite foods. You just got to eat them in moderation. So could be your key to losing weight, too. There's some tips here on Funny Like Clown Podcast. All right, let's talk about Red Buttons, baby, because let's see, won an Oscar and a Golden Globe for the 1957 film. He was supporting actor. He won the Oscar and Golden Globe for in the film Sayonara. Let's see, other films he was nominated for work in. They Shoot the Horses, Don't They? Harlow and Pete's Dragon. Let's see, so all kinds of awards for this guy in his acting career. Lead role in played Private John Steele in the 1962 film The Longest Day. He was born under the name Aaron Chwat. And you wonder how he got his nickname Red Buttons. See, that's not his real name, Red Buttons. Okay, his real name's Aaron Chwat. Got a job as a bellhop in New York City. And with his red hair and the shiny red buttons they had on the bellhop uniforms, the orchestra leader started calling him a name Red Buttons, which I guess he went under that nickname at work for a while. And later he adopted that as his stage name, Mr. Red Buttons. So that's how it all came about. That's how he became the legendary comic Red Buttons. You never know how a nickname's going to stick. I'm big. I've been a big guy since high school. Everybody sees me, big guy. I guess say the first thing comes off your head. They saw Red Buttons. They see big guy. Hey, what's your nickname? It sticks. I don't care. I'm a big guy. Ain't no doubt about it. Let's see. Started performing at resorts in New York City, and it was like the resorts he played at. They were like the lower level resorts. They weren't like the top ones people go to. They were like the cheaper end resorts that he started performing at. One night, the master of ceremonies was incapacitated, and he asked if he could fill in, which got him a little bit of notoriety. From there, he started working on the burlesque circuit, which we brought about the burlesque circuit. We brought that up a few times on Fun Like Podcast, where they go to see the women, but you couldn't have women skimping around like strippers unless you had a show going on. That's how so you get a comic and say it was a comic show, then put the strippers on. But people had come to see the strippers, and the comic was just there to pass the law, so they didn't give a crap about them. Let's see. It was tough, man. You really had to knock him dead to win over the crowd, man. He got noticed, which he was asked to perform in a Broadway show. Now you're going from a burlesque show to Broadway. That's like going from a pizza shop to a 5-star diner or something, man. I mean, this is the place to be. He was asked to perform in a Broadway show called The Admiral and His Wife, which was set in Pearl Harbor at the time. But he never appeared on Broadway after the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. I guess a comedy film making fun of Pearl Harbor after it had been attacked would have been considered in bad taste. So I guess Reddy jokingly said that the Japanese only attacked Pearl Harbor to keep him off Broadway. So didn't get his big shot there, but after a few more years on the scene, hey, they say what comes around goes around. 1942, he finally made it to Broadway in his debut, the film Vicky with Fair and Uta Hagen. Sound like some German films there. I don't know. These are like back in the 40s. I didn't watch the films, obviously, but sounds like, some military stuff, some German stuff. I'm from German descent, so I know this stuff. Uta Hagen. See, that's my German. I don't know what the hell it means, but I can say it. Before Performed in the Wine, Women, and Song, which was actually the last burlesque show ever done in New York. He was actually on stage when the police raided the place, and I guess the mayor ended up shutting it down because I guess they weren't working their way around the laws too good, as you know, too. It was considered more of a strip club, which was illegal at the time. So hey, they shut it down. I mean, can you imagine being in the very last burlesque show, though? I mean, how big burlesque was at the time, and yeah, I guess I don't know who if he got arrested or who got arrested or what happened, but they definitely shut the place down. After that, he got drafted into the army, but that didn't slow him down. He started performing in military shows, which not so much the USO, but I mean the army does have places, you know, that you can perform for military personnel to keep to entertain the troops that don't always have to be the USO. Let's see. After the war, he went back to Broadway. Figured he'd keep trying to make it there. After a few years on Broadway, getting noticed. Okay, now he's getting noticed in burlesque. He goes to Broadway. He gets noticed in Broadway. He receives the Red Button Show, 3 years on CBS television. Okay, that's how you get noticed, baby, right there. His role in Sayonara. That's the one, you know, we mentioned the one among the Oscars and the you know, awards and everything. It was more of a dramatic role, okay, which was away from, you know, he was a comic, he was used to comic roles, but I mean, a comic doing a dramatic role that got him noticed. Which, you know, I remember Robin Williams. They told him he was kind of getting typecast as the funny guy, and he did Photoshop or photographer or whatever. He played the crazy photographer. Was kind of he played the bad guy, but I mean, you got to do stuff to get away from, you know, the acts that, you know, the comedian role. Sometimes you got to take off some serious thing. And who was it? Michael Keaton. I know. I actually saw on YouTube the other day. There was an old bit of him doing stand-up comedy. Michael Keaton, great actor. Who even remembers he started out doing stand-up comedy? So, and he's been in many dramatic roles. Batman. He was the Batman. Still my favorite Batman. Of course, I haven't seen the new Batman movie yet, so I don't know. But up to this point, till I see it, Mike Keaton's my favorite Batman. Let's see. You know, I mean, hey, once you start winning big time awards like that in Hollywood, things, you know, keep coming. Sayonara is co-starring with Marlon Brando. You ever heard him? Yeah, pretty good actor. Later, he did a movie called Hater with John Wayne. You ever heard John Wayne? Yeah, pretty good actor. When Time Ran Out was another movie he did with Paul Newman. Ever heard of Paul Newman? Yeah, great actor. I mean, these are the actors of the time. I mean, 40s and 50s. These are like the big names of today. Okay. He was in a movie 18 Again with George Burns. There's one I did see that movie. Actually, it was a very good movie. Where, yeah, it was actually wasn't much of George Burns in the movie. He was more of a younger kid, but he was in it. And hey, you're in any movie with George Burns, that's a good thing. Even if, that was George. He was later in it, later on in his age. So I mean, they kind of used his name for a big draw. But let's see. Got a TV sitcom, lasted 1 season, which, you know, that's every comic wants the Cosby Show or the big, you know, Cheers or the big sitcom Friends that makes you just into this legendary sitcom actor. But it's only lasted 1 season, which I mean, hey, he got it. You know, we can't all be big hits. It was the Double Life of Harry Fife. That was the name of the sitcom that lasted a season. But you know, his comic legendary status, you know, was becoming a bigger known. Let's see, he had appearances on other TV shows: The 11th Hour, Little House on the Prairie, The Gary Shandling Show, Knots Landing, Roseanne. His last TV spot he ever did was on ER. So I mean, even like shows that today. I mean, you started on Little House on the Prairie, and then you're on years later you're on Roseanne. I mean, those are two different shows from two different time eras, but this guy's on both of them because you win an Oscar and a Golden Globe, you get noticed for that stuff. So you can pick and choose the work you want to do. Now I'll tell you nowadays, okay, if you were in comedy, what would you be a big dream? Oh, I want to be on Jimmy Fallon. I want to be on Jimmy Kimmel. I want to be on Stephen Colbert. Those are all the great late night shows. I want to be on the Joe Rogan podcast or the Adam Carolla podcast or the Mark Maron show or the legendary Howard Stern show. These are things you dream of as a comic, okay? If you're a comic in the 40s and 50s, just take in these names for a minute. These are the shows this guy was getting on, okay? The Jackie Gleason Show, the Milton Berle Show, the Ed Sullivan Show, Johnny Carson's Tonight Show, the Golden Globes, the Bob Hope Show, the Andy Williams Show, the Dean Martin Show, the Merv Griffin Show, Hollywood Squares, the sitcom Wonder Woman, Let's Make a Deal, The Love Boat, Fantasy Island, Knots Landing, and The Cosby Show. I mean, these are the shows of the time. Come on, man. Ed Sullivan, Johnny Carson's Tonight Show, Milton Berle, Jackie Gleason, Dean Martin. I mean, Bob Hope. These are the names, man. Those are the legendary comics, and he's just on all of their shows. Okay, so that's like, can you imagine the status of being all the big late night shows now? And man, being in with those names. But hey, this guy was a nationally known comic. Which, once you're a nationally known comic, okay, back then, once you're on these shows, I mean, the comedy's not like where you can find Comedy Central or Netflix or YouTube. I mean, back then, you had to get on just one of these shows to be nationally known. He's on all the major ones. I mean, this guy, he's never going to work a day in his life. Okay, he can play any comedy club he wants, and oh, you're on those shows, yeah, you come right on in here. I guess he had a famous line. He never got a dinner, which is a routine that he did called He Never Got a Dinner. And I guess it was a standard comedy line they use on all the Dean Martin celebrity roasts. It was a spoof on himself that he had been on so many of the roasts. He was regular fire clubs. He roasted so many people, but they never gave him his own roast. They never gave him his own dinner. So that was a catchphrase that he used that caught on, that he never got a dinner, which after numerous appearances at the Friar Club, he never got his own dinner. He never got roasted. So let's see. Another catchphrase he did was, I did not come here to be made fun of, which was taken up later by Howie Carr, the famous political reporter there, the Howie Carr show. That was another catchphrase. So if you got a catchphrase where everybody's talking about you, it goes back to show how popular this guy was at the time. Got his own star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And from what I hear, I guess that's like part of Skid Row now, man. Like you can't even walk down and look at the stars anymore because it's like some homeless guy sleeping in a tent on the stars. It's like I saw a video of him. I'm like, well, what if you go to Hollywood and you want to check out the stars and you can't do it because somebody's living on the star in a tent because they're homeless? I don't know. I heard a federal judge recently passed a law to get them all out of there, get them some housing or do something with them. But I had friends from Alaska. They went there. They said it was like people are going to the bathroom right in the middle of the road because there's, you're homeless. You got no toilets. He said it was so disgusting. They had to get out of there. They couldn't even stay. It was that bad of a scene. Just sad if people got to live like that. And I agree with the federal judge. They got to do something, man. You can't just let them sleep on the street like that. Get them some housing. Get them some buses. Get them some housing. He was number 71 on Comedy Central's 100 greatest stand-up comedians of all time, and that's where I actually get his name from because that is the standard list that I've used. I mean, I've gone off of it a few times because this was done like over 10 years ago, and there's like the older generation comics, which I haven't done. The newer generation comics is I've been doing them too, but this is the standard list I use for this show because I want to get all 100 of the older generation comics. Then I'll get the newer generation comics, and then I'll end the show because after that, we're not going to have much to talk about once I've done every comedian, but well, every mainstream comedian anyway. Let's see. Hey, I tell you guys often, see my movie. It's on Vimeo on demand. Called The World Needs a New Superhero. You can go there, watch it for $1.99. My first movie as the lead actor. And I do a lot of jokes about child support. That's been my routine because I went through a bitter divorce. I created a character called the Child Support Superhero, and this is the movie about how the character came about. But it just goes to show nowadays divorce is a common thing. Back in the day, back in the 40s and 50s, divorce was a taboo subject. This wasn't something we talked about. But Mr. Red Buttons, he did go through 2 divorces. Before he did find one, his last marriage lasted until the day he died, close to 40 years. So they say if first it don't succeed, try again. So after 2 divorces, he finally found a woman that he was with for close to 40 years. So hey, it happens to the best of us, baby. Let's see. Passed away in 2006 at the age of 87 years old. May we all live that long of a good life of cardio disease in Los Angeles. And man, what a career. Just, I mean, just to go back in time and be on some of those legendary shows. And who knows if the Jimmy Fallons and Jimmy Kimmels and Stephen Colbert's, like, if 20, 30 years from now, they're going to be looked at as the legends or not, because I mean, you look at like the David Lettermans and the Jay Leno, they took over, and yeah, they were legendary, but I mean, there was only one Johnny Carson Tonight Show, so I don't know if these guys will, if it gets less or it gets more, but I mean, they got a lot of work to do to live up to these legends, man. Geez, Ed Sullivan, that was a band. Remember the Beatles were on there, was the biggest thing on earth. Geez, Jackie Gleason, one of the biggest comics at the time. And we talked about what Fred Flintstone. They thought it was a ripoff of his character, Jackie Gleason. They never paid him any money. Geez, Bob Hope, man, just to be in with those names at the time, like I said, it's like being on it's like being on Funny Like Clown podcast, okay? Because if you're on this podcast, damn it, you've hit the top, okay? That's what we're talking about. All right, man, well, thank you guys for tuning in, and we're exploring the history of comedy. I'm going to have something special coming up for the 50th episode, hopefully, and yeah, I'm trying, man. I'm trying to get a few more legendary comics on this show. I got a few connections out there, so we're gonna hopefully start doing some interviews again to mix it up here, because we talk about famous comedians, then we have on some current. I did a TV show called The Comedy Kitchen where I brought on like the big stars, and I wanted the podcast here to be more like the next level, like the working comics in each state, but the ones that haven't at the national level yet, like the top of the working comics that haven't hit the big time yet, that are on their way up. That's what I wanted this show to be, because I already did the big time comics with the TV show. So the podcast, man, I got a list of them, and I think once I get one on, and the rest will fall on like dominoes, but it's getting that one big. It's like when I had Steve Sweeney on the Comedy Kitchen, nobody wanted to do it until I had him on. Then everybody wanted to do it. So I got to get it. Not that I've had some big names on this podcast. You followed along, you know that, but I got to get one of the big underground names, okay? Then the underground following will start to follow me, okay? This is Finally Com Podcast, man. Keep laughing, because I know the history of comedy. You want to be a good comic? Know your history. You're doomed to repeat it. So, and you want to repeat what some of these guys doing. Hey, man, we'll see you next week. Until then, keep laughing, baby. Good night.